And in 2012, after fighting with my dad enough times about the business, I told him, you know what? I'm going to go and make some vegetarian sushi. And he laughed, and everybody around me laughed. But it didn't deter me from believing that it can be done. And I started with my own money and one employee. And it was all winging it in the beginning. And it took not too long, but it caught on pretty fast. It was very out of the box. So it could have gone both ways, either crash and burn or go the way it went, which was fairly okay.
As a vegan, do you ever feel like you're living in a parallel universe, aware of things that many others don't even seem to notice, let alone acknowledge? I'm Chrissy Benson, host of the Vegan Posse podcast. We talk with vegans from around the globe who, like you, are living lives of integrity and compassion with an eye toward justice. Through their personal stories, you'll come to see that you're not an outlier. In fact, you're part of an entire posse of individuals who aren't just keeping the peace, they're creating it through their food choices and beyond. You won't be saddling up, but you're in for the ride of your life. Welcome to the Vegan Posse. Hey Posse, I'm your host, Chrissy Benson. I'm back from an epic vegan summer fest hosted by the North American Vegetarian Society, also known as NAVS, which was celebrating its 50th anniversary. I can't tell you how much this event fed me on every conceivable level: physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual. I got to hear thought-provoking, inspiring talks by amazing speakers like cardiologist Dr. Kim Williams and Dr. Michael Greger, spend time with old friends and new friends, and connect with hundreds of fellow vegans from all over the country and even the world. Some of the highlights for me were appearing in a staged reading of my friend Joanne Farb's original play, Just Is, and seeing my friend Victoria Moran inducted into the NAVS Hall of Fame. I presented 2 talks, one on normalizing veganism through the arts, and the other on self-love for vegans. And most of all, I very much enjoyed stuffing my face with the incredibly delicious vegan food prepared under the direction of award-winning chef Mark Reinfeld of Vegan Fusion, who was also a previous Vegan Posse guest. If you'd like to hear more about the talks that I gave, you can find my contact information in the show notes below. And for this week's episode, we'll be hearing more about incredible vegan food from New York City-based chef Guy Vaknin, founder and executive chef of vegan restaurant group City Roots Hospitality. Chef Guy has a fascinating personal history, including time spent living on a kibbutz in Israel during his youth. I lived in New York City when Chef Guy opened the very first vegan sushi spot in the city, right up the road from me in the East Village. Now Beyond Sushi has multiple locations all over the city, and Chef Guy is opening restaurant after restaurant. He's got restaurants featuring vegan Italian, Mexican, and Mediterranean cuisine, as well as a vegan bistro and soon a vegan dessert bar. Previously, Chef Guy was a contestant on the reality TV show Hell's Kitchen, and then he landed one of the biggest deals in history on the reality show Shark Tank. He's got some amazing stories, and you won't want to miss this inside glimpse into the world of fine vegan dining in New York City. So enjoy this conversation with Chef Guy Vaknin. Well, good to see you. Thanks for hopping on.
For sure.
Do you have any questions before we jump in?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Got one or two in my past, and hopefully I'll do good enough in this one as well.
Yeah. You've been on much bigger league productions than our humble little operation, but we're the coolest.
I don't see it that way. I see that every one of them is a good experience for me, and that's what matters.
I totally agree. Yes. And I do think we're special. So glad you could join us. All right. My objective opinion. Yes. All right. We're already recording, so I'm just going to jump right in.
Beautiful.
Guy, welcome to the Vegan Posse. Are you ready for the ride of your life?
The ride of my life. I am. Not scared of anything.
You sound very certain, which I appreciate.
Definitely.
So you've got a very interesting background. You were raised on a kibbutz in Israel.
I did.
How did that experience? Pardon me?
I did for some of my life, not all of it.
For some of your life. How long were you on the kibbutz?
So I spent 2 years on one and 2 years on another one, but we were bouncing a lot when I was younger from a small town in the south of Israel called Sderot. And then I lived in Be'eri for 2 years, very early age, in third and fourth grade. And then later on, when I was 15 and 16, I lived in Restaurateur, which is another kibbutz in the area.
Wow.
It's a very, very, very interesting experience. I think kibbutz life is an amazing thing for when you're young and when you're a kid. There is this home feeling no matter what, at what time of the day or when. There's always it's all about the community. And basically it's a communist village. So everything is done together. Kids are always together. Your laundry is done all in one place. You eat in one place. You work for the community. When someone gets a TV, then everybody gets a TV. When the car is communal. So it's a very, very, very different environment than what we're used to. But I think it's great because it matures you really fast as a kid. You're self-dependent or you're dependent on the community. And I really enjoyed it because you get to also experience agriculture, and socializing with your age group a lot more than you would if you were in the city. It was a great experience.
It sounds really interesting. How did you even come to live on, the first kibbutz in the first place?
In the first one, my parents got divorced when I was very young. So my mom raised me and my sister, and we were in a small town, developing town. And my mom was very big on education, and they opened a program of outside kids of the kibbutz to come to the school, even though it was very expensive for that time to go to that school. My mom took up another job and made sure that we get to experience something else than that small town. And that's how it started. That was the first time. And that was in third and fourth grade. We basically rented a house in the kibbutz and lived on the kibbutz and went to school in the kibbutz. And then later on, my mom decided that she wants to move again to another kibbutz. Adventurous mom, I can tell you that.
Sounds like it.
But for me, it was like one of the best things ever. One, because I got to experience a lot of cultures and a lot of different places. And yeah, the kibbutz experience, the second one was a lot more impactful than the first one because I was older. And by that age, at 16 or 15 and a half, you already get your own room. You live outside the house. You have to wake up and go to work in the morning before you go to school. And it's part of the experience. So it was a very, very educating experience for the rest of my life. I could say that.
It sounds like it. And coincidentally, another chef that we've had on the show, Mark Reinfeld, also spent time on a kibbutz in Israel.
Oh, really?
Although when he was much older. But from what I know of both of you, it sounds like you both came away with just a really profound desire to prepare food in a way that makes eating, a connective experience that nourishes people on multiple levels, emotional and spiritual, as well as physical. What would you say it is about a kibbutz that gives people that deeper sense of food and community?
Working in agriculture, working on the farm, tilling the land, right? Seeing how a product that we see in the supermarket today, and how much effort and how much resources, how much energy is put into creating those products gives you a better perspective of how to treat the product, how important or valuable the quality of the product is, and it really connects you to the products themselves, so you can appreciate them on a higher level and create on a higher level. I felt when you work in the farm or when you work in the carrot fields, there is nothing more telling in terms of flavor, in terms of quality. When you pull a carrot out of the ground, wash it right there on the field, and eat it, there's no flavor. You can't imitate it. It doesn't matter how, whatever supermarket you're gonna go into and how quality. It sits on the shelf. It takes time, freshness, and the farm right to eating you can't match it anywhere. So.
Right. My grandparents actually lived on a farm in southern New Jersey, and I still remember the tomatoes from their garden, like the golden tomatoes. Yeah, we would just eat them like apples, and I've never had tomatoes that tasted like that.
I do it today. I mean, today I grow my own. Like I have a little piece of land, or not, and I grow as much as I can for the restaurants and for the house.
Wow.
It's really rooted in me. I wake up every morning, 2 hours in the morning. That's what I do. It's like my meditation and my therapy at the same time.
So let's fast forward a little bit. When was it that you actually went vegan? Did that happen while you were living on the kibbutz, or was the kibbutz pretty heavy on animal agriculture?
No. They had animal agriculture, and I wasn't raised in an environment that promoted veganism or any of that, to be frank. Not in the family cell and not on the kibbutz. That came along a lot later on, even after I opened Beyond Sushi.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know that. Okay, so tell us. Well, first of all, I don't know if you know this, but I'm a native New Yorker, and I used to live in New York City until 2017. So I got the chance to, visit Beyond Sushi.
I mean, now it's a lot more extensive, and we do a lot more than just Beyond, but it started with that. So I've been vegan since the beginning of 2013.
Okay.
Beyond Sushi came to life in July of 2012.
Yes, I remember when it opened. It was right up the road from me in the East Village.
Yep, my first one. But the idea or the actual testing of the idea started in 2010. We went to the first, and it started in the catering company that my dad owned, which I worked for. And it was an idea. It wasn't an idea in the beginning. We just did vegetarian sushi with black rice, whatever we had in the fridge. So we just put it there so we can make our sushi station a little bit more attractive, or our vegetarian rolls a little bit more attractive than what they were. But we saw the reaction. We saw how people, were very intrigued by it. And then we tested it in the Vegetarian Food Festival in 2010. And we sold out, and then in 2011 we brought in 4 times the amount of what we brought in the year before, and we sold out within hours. So I realized that there is an opportunity over here. And in 2012, after fighting with my dad enough times about the business, I told him, you know what, I'm gonna go and make some vegetarian sushi. And he laughed, and everybody around me laughed at me. But it didn't deter me from believing that it can be done. And I started with my own money and 1 employee, and it was all winging it in the beginning. And it took not too long, but it caught on pretty fast. It was very out of the box, so it could have gone both ways, either crash and burn, or go the way it went, which was fairly okay.
More than that. So tell me, had you been a big fan of sushi?
I have. Guessing. For all my visits, my father moved here when I was very young. I used to come here. They introduced me to sushi. There was no sushi in Israel. They introduced me to sushi over here. I would get boatloads of sushi, and just I was a fat kid. I loved food, so I would eat it forever. And I fell in love with the techniques. I fell in love with how every bite is very consistent, And I thought that that would be the best solution for attracting people. And it also was popular. I mean, and it is
Right,
popular.
right. Well, going back a little bit to before then, when did you become a chef?
So I started in, I moved to the U.S. in 2005, and I was trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my life. I was 22, didn't know what everybody expected me to go to college, of course, and study something. And my mom wanted me to be either a lawyer or a doctor, of course, and my dad wanted me to, inherit business. But I always loved food. Right, and he had a food business, so I worked with him, and then I quit, and I worked in a bunch of restaurants all over the city, and I was a bartender, and a waiter, and a manager, and a bouncer, and everything under the sun, and decided to go to college finally. Went to computer engineering here in the city, and quit that after 3 months, and just mentioned to my dad that my dream is one day to go to culinary school to learn how to cook for real. And he said, then I'll send you. I didn't know that he devised a plan in his head that after I get out of school, he's going to leave me with the business and disappear. And that's what happened. So I went to school for 7 months. As soon as I got out, my dad left me with the business, said, good luck, I'm leaving. And it went for 2 years. And I ran the business for 2 years, had to figure out how to be a chef. And how to be a business person at 24.
Wow, trial by fire.
Yeah. And I lost him a bunch of money. It was 2009, so everything was crashing. But I lost him a bunch of money, but made him a lot of money later on because I changed the face of the business. We went a lot more fancy with what we were doing, pushing the limits of what his business was before. He ended up being okay, but it also gave me a platform to learn how to be a chef, how to be a business owner, how to run people, how to deal with personalities, which I have to do constantly until today. Psychologist, and how to run money, and how to create and how to balance creativity and business at the same time, which is extremely important because I'm not just the chef. I also have to run the business and make sure that 240 people get paid every week,
240 people.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's thank God the past 4 years have been very good to us, and we've been good to them, and we've grown a lot. But it started with one guy.
Amazing. So you started Beyond Sushi. It sounds like mainly just because you saw a niche and saw a market for it. So when did you actually go vegan yourself?
So it took about, first of all, the business started vegetarian. So I had egg products in the business.
Oh, I see.
It's purely because I was ignorant about the whole thing. I mean, okay, vegetarian, vegan, what's the difference,
You're right.
But I gladly would admit that I didn't investigate enough before. And then while I was doing, and this is part of like my doctrine of running a business, is listening to your customers foremost. And the most important thing is to hear what they have to say, what they think about not only the food, but about the business as a whole, right? They have the best insights, both about the staff, about the food, about how you can assess from that a lot. And right from the get-go, people told me, okay, why don't you make it fully vegan? It's only egg products. Why don't you make it fully vegan? Blah, 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 blah. And then I had an incident when somebody that was vegan ate egg products, and it was devastating for them. And I really felt it. Like I felt the pain. So I went and I did investigating and learning and educating myself, thanks to my customers mainly. In 3 weeks,
how did you educate yourself?
From movies, from books. The whole movement basically started right after I opened the business. I had a guy, Andres, I invite him to every restaurant opening. He was very persistent, and vegans can get really persistent when they want. He was very persistent. I got maybe 100 emails from him in the beginning. Why not? Yes, you can do this, you can do that. Here is this, here is that. So he basically stalked me for a little bit. But he also gave me the biggest gift. He pushed me, and I said, okay, I might as well try it. There is a demand for it. And I tried, and I switched the product, and I switched the menu. And 3 weeks in, not a lot of people know that, but 3 weeks in, I converted the restaurant from vegetarian to vegan. And it was only 3 weeks.
So it was only 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It wasn't a long time. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when I was in New York, I remember it as fully vegan, which I guess would have been.
It wasn't a snap. It was like, what? I mean, this is so easy that I can.
So easy. Yeah.
But there was enough. There was enough for me to. I just needed to do a little bit more research. It was mainly the sauce bases, and we had one item that had like actual egg on it, right? But anyway, that happened 3 weeks in, and then I hit a stumbling block where I was creating, but not fully vegan, and it was very hard for me to create. Right, I had to put myself in the shoes of what I'm serving, especially if I'm leading the business. And then I've tried it. I lost a bunch of weight. I was feeling better. I was lighter on my feet. I slept better, and I just changed my diet. I said, you know what, I'll try it for a little bit, see how it works. I was a non-believer, right? Like all the way non-believer. But then everything clicked, right? My muse came. I could create a lot better. Everything clicked to what I needed to do. So I just stuck to it, and over time, it's just like I can't even imagine, eating any other way right now. And no, it's not like a typical story, but who cares? It works for me,
And I don't know that there really is typical. I don't know that there really is. I personally went vegan very reluctantly. It was very unenthusiastically. It was more just a question of learning more and more about the egg industry and, later the dairy industry, and just starting to feel less and less okay consuming those products. So we all have our own path. As a chef, did you have people tell you like this is a death sentence if you go vegan, or you insist on cooking vegan?
I've had people, non-believers from day one, but I can tell you one thing. You tell me I can't do it, you better believe it's gonna be done. That's the one thing that fuels every fiber of me. Right? I sometimes tell myself that just to challenge myself. But it's you got to be resourceful, and you got to make things happen. For me, when I had everything on the line, there was no other option, right? Everything was on the line. My girlfriend at the time, which is my wife now, was paying the rent for us. I couldn't stand that, and needed to make sure that I come on top. And it meant that I have to work 18 hours a day or 20 hours a day. That's what I did. And I did that straight for 4 years without taking a break.
Wow.
Without even one day off.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's part of the business. But it is what it is.
Yeah. And those 18-hour days, was that with Beyond Sushi, or by then had you started any of your other restaurants?
No, that was with Beyond Sushi. The beginning was the hardest. Right? I couldn't afford. When I opened the first one, I had $1,000 left. So it meant that if in 2 weeks I don't get going, I'm out. Because nobody would give me money, because the idea was kind of crazy. I didn't want money on one hand, but I had to make it work. I had no other choice. What I used to do is come at 3 a.m, prep all day, clean after myself, go up to the counter, because it was just a counter, with the sushi chef, and work with him until closing, 9:30. Close up, clean up, go back home or the apartment, sleep for 3-4 hours, and then come back and do it all over again. For at least the first 2 months, it was like that. And then on the 7th day, just like in the Bible, my guy needed a day off, my sushi chef, and I didn't know how to make sushi. So it was horrendous. Like I wasn't a professional at it. I knew like the basics. It was horrendous. The seventh day, it got busy. I was there by myself. I was taking orders, making sushi, cleaning up, doing everything that I could, just to save up. And then after a month, we hired a dishwasher, right? And then afterwards, I hired a prep guy, and so on, until I hired my soon-to-be wife to come back and help me. And then it blew up. It literally blew up. I would have a line outside the door. And then 10 months later, I opened another one. And a year after that, I opened another one. And then we went on and on and on until we had 7.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So
at a certain point, you ended up on the show Hell's Kitchen. How did that happen? That was before. All right.
So
well, tell us about that. That was 2010. So pre-vegan.
Yeah. In 2010, I got an email about casting, or 2008. Sorry, I got an email about casting for season 8. I went for the casting. They flew me out to LA. I didn't get in. But then they called me the year after and told me, we want you to come back. I went again. I already understood what reality TV is all about and what they're looking for. So I knew what to give them.
What did you give them?
I gave them everything that would be entertaining on the camera. Everything that reality TV is looking for. If you want to call it that. It's more about chefing and entertaining the viewer, right? And there is a thing to say about that. Even in today, I can use it, right? If it's on social media and or whatever it is that you do, even on a podcast, right? It's got to be entertaining. You got to be able to tell a story. It's part of the game. So I got on at the show itself. I didn't want to make a fool out of myself on national TV. So I didn't give them everything they wanted for too long. It worked out for however long it worked out for. But there was a moment that I didn't want to go party at night and wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I went to sleep at 8 o'clock. That wasn't entertaining. So they didn't like it as much. I still, they have their own calculations of why and how and who. But it was all real. Whatever you see on TV, we cook, we go through services. It's a mess. He screams. And that's basically the only time that I worked under a chef. So that's the first time and last time that I had a chef telling me what to do.
I take it you weren't a fan of being told what to do.
I wasn't, but it was interesting because I did pick up a bunch of stuff. Like Gordon is a TV character, right? But in reality, the lessons that I learned from it is the passion towards perfection, or the passion towards consistent execution. And that drives a lot of what I do today as a chef, and it should drive every chef out there. It doesn't have to be complicated. You just have to do it right, with love.
Right.
So I picked that up from there, and that was good enough,
Yeah. Has Gordon Ramsay ever come to any of your restaurants?
I haven't seen him, but I did hear from a few customers that he directed them to my restaurants, people that know him, and hopefully one day he's gonna come, and he will see that I wasn't that bad. It's all about real life. I mean, reality TV is fun. If you want to measure wins, I'd rather win in real life than on reality television.
That's a great perspective. That makes a lot of sense. Well, speaking of more reality TV, then later on you were on Shark Tank and you did amazingly well on there. You landed a $1 million+ deal. So tell us about that.
So in 2018, I went on Shark Tank again. Got a call. It was interesting. My wife convinced me to go. I said that I'm not going to go on reality TV ever again, but we talked about it, me and Tali, and we decided that we will go, and we had a plan of what we want to do, and expanding into the West Coast. And I talked, and I went, and I talked about the business and what we do. I run a very conservative business with that they liked and thought that can go far. And at the end, after 45 minutes of talking to them, they were convinced, and two of them, Lori Grenier and Matt Higgins, offered to invest in the business, and I accepted it. But in reality, after you accept the business deal, you have to actually talk about it and do some contracts and negotiation and a bunch of other things. It's not all on TV. And we ended up parting ways, and I ended up not partnering with them.
Interesting.
7 months. Yeah. Took me 7 months and a lot of money on my behalf, a lot of lawyers and whatever. But again, it was also another good experience. I had to break down and analyze my business to the core and send it over. And just doing that part was insightful enough to teach me a lot about what's going to happen in the future.
Right. That's fascinating. So you started that business without that piece of funding. No. How did you fund it, and how did you move forward?
Saved money from working hard, and then I took money from friends and family, which I paid within the first year back.
Wow.
It wasn't a good feeling. And then ever since, I try to run a business that is always on the positive, right? If it's not on the positive, that's an indication that I need to do something about it. And if I don't do something about it, then I am not a good business owner.
Interesting. A business, a business without debt. That's a novel concept.
I know it's not conventional, but I believe that businesses should fuel themselves for the future. And if you're trying to, and again, it's always easier to take money and fuel growth, right? And you can do that. But you got to be a very, very disciplined person and have the ability to assess expenses the right way. When you are the one that had to bleed for that money, every expense that goes into is getting audited. I run the business up until today. I'm the CFO. Every transaction that goes through this business goes through me. And I will be until we get to a point where there is a board that takes me out of it. But I've done a pretty good job with it. Today it's a lot bigger and there's a lot to cover. And of course I have assistants and I have people that help me with all the booking and whatever. But even that I had to learn along the way. So I had a bookkeeper and she did not great. And then I had a controller and he did not great. And then I told my wife, well, you're not going to see me for the next month, but I'm locking myself in the office and I'm going to learn how to do QuickBooks and I'm going to learn why business. I just did that. I've always been good with numbers, so it helped. And I have a good memory, and that helped too.
Yeah.
I run the numbers today for the business and have been for almost 7 years now. So.
Wow. It sounds like you still must be working 18-hour days.
No, I calculate my hours that I can put in, and every minute that I have to put in, I try to make sure that it's productive and is allocated to the right place in the business. So Mondays is my office day. And I try not to do any more than Monday. And if I do more than Monday, I'm very unhappy. Because I don't like doing it the office days. I like to be on the line. I like to cook. I like to touch the food. And so I do that. I do that once a week. But it works out because I have a very good, I can feel the heartbeat of the business at all times, right? There is a gap with chefs because of creativity. They lose sight of what matters in reality. It's a business. We have to make sure that the business is operating like a business. There is a lot of people counting on me and the team, on management, that they can be provided for every week for their families, right? So we can't lose sight of that.
Yeah, that's a big responsibility, like big honor and privilege and big responsibility. So when was it that you founded your restaurant group, City Roots Hospitality, and what inspired that name?
So City Roots, before the pandemic, I started venturing out from what Beyond Sushi was doing. I hit a
Beyond Sushi.
yeah, Beyond Sushi. I almost called it far beyond sushi, but I hit a ceiling. I felt in numbers in 2018, 19, and I saw all around me a lot of plant-based restaurants that are thriving and killing it, and I thought that I could do much better. That's my overconfidence, I guess. And I saw them, just taking products that imitate proteins and just slapping them and just, oh, here's a burger, here's this. There was no creativity in it. There was no creation in it. And I felt like, okay, I have this wild mind that I can infuse a lot of things into these things and alter them. And I had a vision where I take these products as they come to market. And of course, they got to be at a high quality, clean product. And basically alter them or look at them as products that you would look at protein, right? Like you would, if a steak is a steak and chicken is a chicken, and basically creating a menu that is very familiar to the broad community, not just the vegan community, entice into our customer base, not only our customers, but people from outside our community. And we started in 2019, and I had a dinner menu that I was playing around with in Beyond Sushi, but the name didn't match, and this didn't, all these things didn't work together. And then we came up with City Roots, and we're gonna do this hospitality group and open other restaurant. And then, poof, pandemic happened.
I was going to ask what it was like being in the restaurant business during those years when New York City was almost entirely shut down. Yeah.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah. How did you manage?
We went from 125 employees to 6.
Wow.
That's how bad it was.
Wow.
I opened a restaurant in 20th of February 2020 in the Upper East Side, and 13th of March they closed down. And,
oh boy!
And I was deep over my neck in my standards, which is like, hey, I don't have this, I don't take on anything. This is my standards. Other people probably, when they run restaurants, they're like that all the time. I can't stand that. So I was feeling the pressure. So I had to do what I had to do in that time. But I always thought about how I'm rebuilding it, and it was also a reset moment, so I can reset our course to where the future in my mind would be. You did, because I had to make sure that everything's okay. My kids are
understood. Yeah, of course.
Again, I wanted to see that everything is fine.
Right. So reset moment.
Yeah. So it was a reset moment, and everybody was thinking that no one is going to go out, and it's all going to be to-go food and pick up. But my mind was telling me something else. I felt like I wanted to go to a restaurant. I wanted to go to socialize. I wanted to sit down at a restaurant, be served on like I used to. It's something that I missed, and I went all in. I Hail Mary, and in November 2020, there wasn't even dogs in the street. No one was outside. I took on Willow, and I started a new restaurant. Which was insane, right?
I love it, though. That's amazing.
But it was the same thing that I did with Beyond Sushi. I needed to take a risk that would take us out of the slump that we went into. And day one, there was a line for 3 blocks.
Was it all takeout at that point?
All takeout.
Yeah.
All takeout.
Wow.
So
wow.
People are waiting outside, and we're talking like in the middle of the winter, right? Just coming in to take out this new restaurant, and I wasn't expecting it. So of course, I'm there on the line with my dishwasher cooking because I don't have employees anymore. And people are waiting 48 minutes for a mac and cheese. Unfortunately, that was the first day. But I soon understood that people were starving for something good to happen, not only in the restaurant business, but just something, because everything was gloomy. Everything was like dark. And then a month later, they let us do 25%. So I put online some of the Beyond Sushi restaurants that we had before. So I had maybe like 5 open plus Willow. And then slowly, I phased out all the ones that were mainly to go, right? So Chelsea Market was gone. Pine Street was gone. Mulberry was gone. 14th Street, I phased it out. Upper East Side later on. But in the meantime, I started gathering other restaurants or other concepts. In the time that between the March and opening Willow, I wrote menus for like 10 concepts because I had nothing to do.
Wow.
I just had nothing to do, so I just wrote menus. I wouldn't like take off, so I came to work every day. So I wrote menus and I wrote concepts and I wrote the plan for after the pandemic.
Very interesting. I was going to ask you how you ended up branching out into such different varieties of cuisine. Yeah. You've got a restaurant that's Mediterranean, another one that's Mexican, one
Italian,
that's bistro style.
Yeah, I have Italian, I have the American bistro. I'm opening 2 more now. Later on. Wow.
Yeah. So you're clearly not somebody who likes to pigeonhole himself.
No, it's boring. After I always want to learn new things, right? And part of being a chef is that you get to learn it while making it, right? So learn a cuisine. I opened an Italian. I also learned how to make pasta from scratch. I also learned how to make food. I learned on the way, right? You have to, how do you do pizza dough? What is everything about it? And now it's in my bag, right? And the same thing happened in Willow. Okay, we started buying the bread, but today we make 100% of it. There's no bread in the company that I buy from outside.
Yes, wow, that's really cool.
I buy ground beef, which is vegan, right? But I alter it. But whatever is all around it, cheeses, some of the cheeses we still buy, but a lot of them we make. Bread, pasta, all the creation of like a normal kitchen. I think that we should never lose sight of, right? And it's rare to find restaurants that produce their own bread or their own, even the burger buns, even the sandwich bread, everything is made in-house.
Amazing.
Yeah, but that's over time. American, then the Italian. That happened in Omicron with the second wave of Corona. There was a lot of places shutting down. I was just like, okay, this one shut down. Let me take that one. Not only that, people think I'm crazy, but during Willow, when I opened Willow, I couldn't find a contractor to build my restaurant. So I built a construction company. So I build my own restaurants now. So that I do also. There is a division in our
now I'm getting a full sense of just how crazy you really are. That tells me a lot.
Yeah. So we have a division that does that. So we have
right. The vision gets like. So, well, tell me
it
this.
Works out if you do enough,
Yeah. Tell me this, like how much recalibration and readjustment would happen after you opened one of your restaurants, because obviously you'd go in with your menu and you'd go in with your vision, but then like you said, you were listening to your customers and you were getting market feedback. So how much tended to change and how challenging was it to, kind of get in alignment with market?
Over time, you hear and you have to feel the restaurant. So I have a theory, a 5-finger theory. I tell my guys too, if you don't touch it all the way and you don't know what's going on, if you didn't make it, there is no way for you to really get insight on what's going on. So for the first 2 months, I usually cook. Like I'm in the restaurant. I cook, I do every station. I see what's wrong with it. I help them efficientize it. I build a system. I'll put in the internet, everything. So I know everything about that restaurant. And for 2 to 3 months. Today it's a little bit different. I have a chef de cuisine. I have a chef at every restaurant. They already worked with me for a long time. I can pull them from one restaurant to another. I built a system around it where how dishes are built, how they're structured during, how many steps it takes, how long does it take to make each dish. Like I really go into the nitty gritty of everything in the restaurant. You gotta make it a business. You know, it's not just a restaurant. It's gotta operate. I gotta serve 400 people at Anixi every night. Let's say.
Yeah, you can't take 20 minutes to put a plate together.
No, how do you pump it out? How do you do that?
Yeah.
Like how do you make that happen? And we do some things we do very modern, but some things we do very old school. All my expediting stations are run vocally, so all my chefs need to remember, cook, and produce everything very old school, right? But there is certain things, or the way we produce everything. Yeah, we do it the right way, right? But there's got to be a thought process behind it to make sure that all those things can, in harmony, work in the restaurant, right? Front of the house, back of the house. It's not like I have managers in the front of the house, but I still need to oversee that. I'm the chef, right? I need to oversee how the servers are doing and how the bartenders are doing. And today I have a beverage director. I still got to manage, right? I still got to get into that. So it's a whole package, but we got a very good system now. To put it together, a restaurant is a lot easier than when Willow was, right? To put together Sentir was a lot easier than Anixi, was a lot easier than Coletta. And the following ones should be easier, even though they're bigger, bolder projects than I've ever done. So,
right. So I was perusing the Willow dinner menu and saw entrees like clam chowder and buffalo popcorn chicken, which disconcerted me a little at first until I saw the notation that everything on the menu is vegan.
Yeah.
So what made you decide to use traditional animal-based food names in your menus?
As I alluded to earlier with a conversation, I cannot sustain these restaurants. We feed over 1,000 people a day. I cannot sustain it with just the community. And I don't think it's the right way to branch out into the world with this mission of serving plant-based food on a large scale if we only directed at a community, right? I think that I've learned that people eat with their memory, right? Whatever you experiences had before, you always long for them, or flavors. I cook out of my memory a lot of times, but it worked, and there is a psychological thing behind it where you feel like you're in a regular restaurant and you taste food that is like a regular restaurant. You're more inclined to eat them, because you don't want to be excluded, right? You don't want to have something that is less of what your friends are having. And it's easier for people to bring non-vegans or vegans to bring non-vegans into my restaurant and have them enjoy their meal, or not worried about them not enjoying their kale bowl with quinoa, where they can have a regular meal. Now, I'm not knocking on kale bowl with quinoa, right? But that doesn't take a chef. I want to be a chef. I want to have ingredients. I want to create. That's my core.
So do people ever come into your restaurant and eat there and leave not realizing they've had a vegan meal?
A lot of times. They just walk in and walk out. They pay. Everything's good. They don't know.
I just wonder if anyone's ever, complained that you weren't serving real chicken.
I've had people, and it's a concern that within the team we said, because we used to have apostrophes. The protein, we took that off.
Yeah.
We're afraid for a second that people are going to be like, hey, this is deceiving. I don't think it is. I just think that we just, to normalize this cuisine, to normalize vegan or plant-based eating, you can't differentiate it. It tastes exactly the same.
Right.
A lot of times more protein than the actual protein. So, yeah, we're proud to be a plant-based vegan restaurant. We shout it off the roofs, but I don't need to put it in every piece of my menu. Hey, look at me, I'm plant-based.
Right. And I've heard it said, in the vegan marketing world that the vegans will find the vegan businesses. So you don't even really need to advertise to vegans because they'll find the vegan places.
Right.
You want to appeal to
And
the broader
unfortunately,
market.
it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but the community has lost a bunch of restaurants in the past few years. So.
Because of the lockdowns and the shutdowns, or do you think something else is going on?
I think there is a lot of factors to it. Lockdowns definitely help. Rising costs is extremely hard, and a lot of chefs or business owners or restaurant owners in the community not necessarily do the math of value compared to what they charge, and it's hard. You gotta give the customer value. So if it's the ambiance, if it's the restaurant, if it's the service, if it's the actual food, it has to have a value so you can charge enough price so you can sustain yourself and stay in business, right?
Right.
And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that it happens, but it happens. It's part of the game, especially with rising costs, right?
I believe it. Yeah. No, I can feel it in the grocery stores. Yeah. So a lot of people think, and I can't really disagree, that the most effective form of vegan activism is simply to get people eating delicious vegan food. So what influence do you think you and your restaurants have had in the world of fine dining?
I think that doing what we're doing and designating the restaurants for all people, not just vegans, opened up a lot of minds and achieved a lot of meals being served to the world, and not just vegans, right? And I don't know how many, but a few millions of people already ate the food at our restaurants.
That's amazing to be able to say.
Yeah. It's, over 13 years, 12 years. It's been a lot, right? So and it's amazing because that's like the biggest. One is the biggest validation for me for what I'm doing. Two, it's part of the mission of what we're doing as a company. Yeah, it's cool to do really cool things for 100 people a night, but I feel like it's cooler to do for 1,000, 1,200, 1,500, and show them the possibilities of what this could be. And a lot of people don't understand that with a little bit of passion, a little bit of love, a little bit of consistency and discipline, you can create great dishes that I'll bring somebody to a Mexican restaurant or a Mediterranean restaurant or an Italian restaurant, not tell them that it's vegan. There is no way in the world that they would, question me,
Yeah, I love it. So I've got just a couple more questions for you. This has been so fascinating just to get this glimpse into this world of, New York City. I definitely do. But what have been some of the biggest surprises, about this path that you found yourself on?
I think that one, it's to sit where I sit today. One, I wouldn't imagine that I would be in this position 12 years ago. But I have taken everything that came my way and tried to deal with it to the best of my ability. What I can take from it is it's all the meetings with so many people over the years that have contributed in one way or another to my personal growth and character and what I learned and what they contribute for the business and to grow, this big family of 250 people or 240 people It goes up and down all the time. But
yeah.
yeah, but that community or that support is not something that I take very lightly.
Yeah. And that kind of brings me to my next question. How would you say that you've evolved as a vegan?
How what?
How have you personally evolved as a vegan?
In the beginning, I was very against all that, practically everything that I'm doing now, which is creating from products. When I started, I was very pure on what I was doing. So it was just vegetables, fruits, grains. But over time, I evolved and I understood that if I want to reach a wider public, I have to make changes and to the way I approach it, because it's not only me, right? I cook for myself. I love the flavors that I cook. I eat a little bit different on my own. My diet, varies on what I do eat or what I don't eat. Of course, everything is vegan, but how and what products and how much of it is vegetables, straight up, raw. I take I really listen to my body, what it craves more than anything. But I've evolved to accept that even within the vegan community, there is different approaches to how this is done or why it's done and why people are in it for what reasons, which is kind of deflating sometimes because we're all in the same cause, which doesn't make any sense to me to knock on this or knock on that, right? I had my approach, but I never knocked on things. I think that everything that we can do to transfer to plant-based is welcomed in my world. So that's it.
Yes, that makes sense to me. So what's next for you in the restaurant world and outside?
So we're building right now 2 more. We're building a massive project that I'm doing. I can't tell where yet, but it's going to be small plates, very fancy tapas, Spanish and south of France influence.
Wow, in New York City? Interesting. Wow.
Everything is around here. I need to be in them. I cannot build somewhere else. I need to be there. And then we're building a bakery dessert bar as well. We're building two at the same time. Yeah. So I have a great,
wow.
And again, I'm not doing it all on my own. I have my team.
Not your contracting company this time.
No, I have my team and I have my pastry chefs that are amazing and doing amazing stuff. So that's why we're going to go into the baking world and dessert world.
Boy, that sounds dangerous.
What we have done before, right? Because we have great desserts right now in the restaurants as well. And then I always wanted, to push the limits of our service, quality of food. The one that I'm building, the bigger project, is right by Union Square, so it's close to the Green Market. We're going to do a lot of the menu off the Green Market, seasonal. Yeah, very exciting for me on a professional level. Very exciting for the team because it's going to push them to higher limits. So stuff. As long as we grow, we don't die. That's why I tell.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds incredible. And actually, just listening to your stories and hearing these descriptions of your restaurants, honestly, it's the first time I've missed New York City, even a little bit. Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay.
Yeah. Which also has a pretty good, vegan restaurant community. But, it wasn't like New York City where there was, a high-end vegan place on every corner opening up every week.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. This has been fabulous to hear your story. Congratulations on everything. One more question, which I ask all my guests: is there a particular word that for you sums up what being vegan is all about?
Being vegan.
Yes. One word.
truth. Is that good?
You want to say a little more about that? I mean, I get it and I love it, but say a little more.
You know, I mean, the typical words would come to your mind, and compassion, and I think that I've always thought that the future, if we really look at it and we're honest with ourselves and we tell ourselves the truth, could only be sustainable if we switch to plant-based. Yeah, you might be able to have the elites and whatever, but if we want to be sustainable over time, both on an environmental side and food security side,
right,
we have to make the transition. Truth and saying the truth and being honest is one of the bedrocks of everything I do. I tell my kids, I tell my employees, you have to be honest with yourself and with everybody around you. Sometimes it hurts, but that's the truth.
I love that. And that makes total sense to me. And I think honestly, if everybody told the truth to themselves, or, was willing to admit the truth about what's happening to animals in our food system, then everyone would be vegan. So
only if they saw it. So I always say to people that tell me, "Whoa, how can you do it?" I say, and when I was in the kibbutz, I did go, and we to slaughter an animal, to know that experience, right? To feel that experience is something that doesn't leave you. If you can do that every day to eat your chicken sandwich, and go ahead. That's what I say to everybody, but I don't think that they can.
Right. I agree. All right. Well, Guy, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been great to hear your experience. Again, thank you for everything that you're doing in the world of food. And we close every episode by taking 30 seconds of silence for all of the suffering animals, human and non-human, who desire, as we all do, safety, happiness, and the freedom to live out their lives without interference. Guy, I invite you to join me in 30 seconds of silence for the animals, and we'll conclude with the sound of the bell. Thank you, Guy, and thank you, Posse. See you next time. Until then, stay strong and stay true.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.